and and the internet is from a satellite, so hopefully it'll be good. Okay.
Okay, good evening to all the all the listeners from all around the world, from Europe. Good evening. I postponed the shiur. I'm sorry, I couldn't give it to yesterday, so it will be today and next week. Bezrat Hashem, back to Tuesdays and the regular hour till we change it. Okay. This time, I would like to discuss the relations between Avraham and Lot. Actually, we don't find any friends, any friendship at all, till from the beginning of Sefer Bereshit. Everything we do is the first time. Okay, we have a family and we have a murder of kind of jealousy, murder, dynasty. We have three brothers, three times, as we said, Cain, Hevel, and Shet. We don't find any brotherhood among them, even between Hevel was a tzaddik, Shet, another tzaddik, and we don't find anything they say to each other. The same thing happens at the end of the first dynasty, at the end of Noach's chain, when we see Noach's sons, Shem, Ham, Vayefet, and not we see actually that Canaan and Ham are the extremists when they do what they do, okay, to Noach, whatever they do, and somehow you might say that Shem and Yefet are cooperating in order to be normal, but they're not friends, okay, no friendship at all. And we see somehow, generally speaking, in Perek Yud Aleph, the Migdal Bavel, so we see friendship among the people of the world. If we say that I spoke about it on Shabbat, but if you usually say, as we usually say, that the problem was that they wanted to be together, whereas Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted the world to be various and multi cultures. So you might say that they tried to look for brotherhood, for achdut, okay, whatever, something like this. But it was very, very, very general. And we don't find Avraham Avinu. Again, we have three sons, okay? Terach has three sons. It's a big machloket among the psukim. Who was the firstborn? Natziv says that the pshat is that Avraham is the eldest. However, Ramban, Ibn Ezra, they bring midrashim, explicit midrashim, that it wasn't like this. So, but you don't find anything that they do together. You don't find that Avraham does with his father. You do find that Terach took him from abroad, from Chutz La'aretz, to Eretz Israel. You don't know how old he was. I said on Shabbat, there is a machloket, the Seder Olam says that he was 70 when he made the first Aliyah, or that he just moved towards Eretz Israel. Never mind. But we know from the Midrash that not only that Avraham wasn't a friend of his father, but he fought with him with the sipur of the psilim, of the idols that Avraham, Terach, according to the Midrash, had a shop of idols, and Avraham broke all of them. Okay, so, but for the first time, Avraham takes his nephew, Lot, and you see some brotherhood, some friendship, some kirvat dam, okay, which is more than kirvat dam, more than just being relatives, but being friends, doing something together. Because when Noach saved his wife and his sons and his daughters-in-law, he did it just to save them, okay? But you don't see any brotherhood. You see just the Kadosh Baruch Hu ordered them to the family. This family has to be hidden in the ark. But here you see that he goes with him. And no, at the beginning of the parasha, ויאמר השם אל אברהם, לך לך מארצך וממולדתך מבית אביך אל הארץ אשר אראך, וילך אברהם, וילך איתו לוט. Okay, and for the first time you see as if they get along, okay? And later on, you'll see at the War of the Four Kings versus the five, that Avraham saves and endangers himself and saves his nephew from being hostage. But as you know, he doesn't succeed. וגם לילות ההולך את אברהם, היה צאן ובקר ואוהלים. The Pasuk explicitly says that they have too many possessions, and ולא נשא אותם הארץ לשבת יחדיו, כי היה רכושם רב, ולא יכלו לשבת יחדיו. So twice the Pasuk repeats that they cannot get along pretty well. And the question is whether like Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, there are a lot of midrashim, that Hillel and Shammai were very okay with each other, but the problem started with the Talmidim, that they didn't shimshu kotzorkam, they didn't listen well to the Rav, and then I am in the shita of my rabbi, and you're in the shita of your rabbi, and I don't listen to you, you don't listen to me, and there are two Batei Midrash, and therefore they fought. Even though the Gemara in Yevamos says that they never prevented themselves from marrying each other from the same cult or the same tribe, but basically you see Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, okay? And with Lot, it's a question the Midrashim and the Meforshim discussed whether it was a problem personally of Lot with Avraham, or that Lot himself was a tzaddik, and therefore the fight started with the shepherds of Lot and the shepherds of Avraham, who were probably very plain, simple people, like shepherds, and they start fighting, and from then on, the big boss, Avraham, and the big boss Lot couldn't get along pretty well. So it's a question, and the question goes on whether you look at Lot as a tzaddik, ולוט יושב בסדום, so you, ממש like Noach, you can look at Noach. When we learn Noach, so Chazal takes the equation from Avraham Avinu, and it's a question why they equate him to Avraham. When we talk about Lot, you mamish takes the equation of Noach, because Noach was the only tzaddik in his generation, but it's a question whether he was a tzaddik compared to other generations. And you might say that Lot sat in Sodom, like we know some people, they go to, I don't chas v'shalom compare, but some people go to Tel Aviv or to different places where there is no Torah or not so much Torah, or Shlichei Chabad, or you know that, Brian, where you are, there are Shlichei Chabad. So in the middle of nothing, they just go and sit there and scatter Torah and provide religious ceremonies, etc. So the same thing you might say about Lot, and then you hold that he's a tzaddik, and he was close to Avraham. Since he was close to Avraham, he was probably a tzaddik. Vayelech Avraham, vayelech ito Lot, that to go at, meaning to be the same, to be with such a tzaddik, meaning that you're a tzaddik yourself. And then he went to Sodom, maybe because of a bad decision, maybe because of a good decision, to be the only tzaddik there. And when Avraham, the Melachim, would come to Lot at the next parasha, Parashat Vayera, so Lot would be the only tzaddik. He would be the machnis orchim, he would be the savior of them. And at the end, he was saved. His family was saved. Okay, what happened later, it was because of being drunkard. But basically, he had the reason to be saved. Okay, maybe because of Avraham, maybe because he accompanied to Avraham, but it doesn't matter. He was a tzaddik. But you might say, on the contrary, that Lot was not a tzaddik at all, and he was a Rasha, but just since he was annexed to Avraham, since he was, tied to his tail of Avraham Avinu, that's why he succeeded in saving himself. And therefore, he succeeded when he was close to Avraham. Once he separated from Avraham, as the pasuk says explicitly in our parasha, so Lot began to be what he really was, a Rasha. The same thing like Noah. I would like to discuss the sentence that Avraham says to him. Avraham says, עם השמאל והימינה, ועם הימין והשמאלה. אוקיי? אל נא תהי מריבה ביני וביניך ובין רועי ובין רועיך, כי אנשים אחים אנחנו. Don't fight with me, don't fight with between among your shepherds, because we're brothers, and if you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I go to the left. Just to mention the why left and right. Why doesn't he say if you go backwards, I'll go for Kadima, and if you go Kadima, I'll go backwards? Why does he use left and right? So you might say it's just a phrase, okay? He establishes a phrase. As I said many times, in the Bible, nowadays, all the maps are going to the north. You have N, showing where the Kochab Tzafon or the north is, and you know, if you have a matzpen, I don't know how to say it in English, okay, if you're in the middle of the desert and you have
compass.
Yeah, sorry?
Compass.
Compass, thanks. Okay, so you go to the north, and during the time of the Mikra, everybody looks to the east, okay? And that's why, because the east was the place from which the sun comes. The east was a place where all the pagans, as the Rambam writes in the Moreh Nevuchim, were worshipping the Chama. We see it in Sefer Yechezkel explicitly, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes him for a ride, for a flight, to see Yerushalayim, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows him all the problems, all the sins of Yerushalayim, and he sees from above the women davening to the sun, okay, davening to the east, and therefore Rambam writes it in his Moreh Nevuchim, Perek Gimel, Perek Memhei. He writes that Avraham, he established, Avraham established the west. Avraham established the western wall, the western direction, the kedusha of the west. And during the time as a Mikra, everybody is heading to the east, and that's why the east is called Kadmon, Kedim. And the Yam HaAcharon, the Mediterranean, is called Acharon because he is Achori, is the rear one. And if you go to the right, you go to Teiman, okay, Yamin, to Yemen. You go to the south. And if you go left, you go to the north. עכשיו, basically, Avraham, when saying Im השמאל וימינה, הימין והשמאלה, he says very simple thing. He sits on the borderline between Hebron, okay, the borderline between the desert. If you go to Hebron, you see the Yam HaMelach, all the desert Yericho, all the big valley of Sodom, which is now, and the valleys of, let's think of Efrat, you see a lot of vineyards, right? A lot of kfanim. You see a lot of fruits, and it's a very fruitful area. And the border, Shlomo HaMelech speaks about it in his Sefer Shir HaShirim, because he speaks about the love between the king or the uncle from Yerushalayim, the Ben Ir, the person of the city, and the girl comes from the suburbs or from the villages, from Efrat, from some Hebron, okay, because he speaks about the wine. I'll bring him, I'll bring the uncle, I'll bring my boyfriend to see the grapes. Where can you see grapes? Not in Yerushalayim. You see it in Hebron. And that's the borderline between the fruitful place of the suburbs of Yerushalayim and the deserted place of the suburbs of Yerushalayim towards Yericho. So Avraham Avinu decides to go to Hebron. That's why Eimina. And Lot decides to go a little bit norther smaller to the place of Sodom. It was very, very, very rich with water and tzimchia and trees, but later on it became very desert. And that's why he writes in a small veimina, meaning that I'm sitting about the aches of north and south, because the aches of east and west was not Eretz Israel. He couldn't go there. He didn't offer Lot to go either to the east or to the left, to the west. He just offered him either to go to the north or to go to the south. That's a basic explanation of the phrase. So I say again, you might just say that it's a phrase. You don't have to explain it. You might explain that it's a phrase meaning north-south. I want to give a third and last explanation using the virtue of Avraham Avinu. As you know, we just went out of Chag Sukkot, and Avraham was the first Ushpizin, the first day of Sukkot. We invite Avraham, and he is in all the archetype of Sukkot, in the Ushpizin, in the last day of Simchat Torah, and the Akafot, the first Akafa is Avraham Avinu, the Chesed. Avraham Ohavi, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu says. What does Chesed mean? So usually we translate Chesed as giving, it's charity, being generous, helping. And we know that Avraham Avinu, we can say everything about him. We say that he was generous. He brought a lot of people under Kanfei HaShechina, under the wings of the Shechina. He was mekarev people. He gave achnasat orchim. He gave food. He gave hatzalah. He gave himself. He sacrificed himself to his nephew, to Noach, to Lot, and he did everything for people, not for himself, but just for the people. So he's mamash the typical of Chesed, whereas his son Yitzchak is a typical of Gvura. Okay, because what Gvura means to be mekuvatz, to be shrunk, to be with yourself, not to see people. Yitzchak never goes outside of Eretz Israel, never doing anything. You always, everything is being done to him, okay? You bring him wife, you bring him everything, all the business. He tries not to fight. He tries to go to prevent himself from fighting. So that's a basic interpretation of Chesed and Gvura. And we know that Chesed is on the right and the Gvura is on the left. If you say Patach Eliyahu, sometimes. So the Patach Eliyahu has all the virtues, and the Patach Eliyahu depicts like a hangman, a person that is right is Chesed, is left is Gvura, is middle is Tiferet, and then you have Netzach ve'Ha'od, Trei HaShukayim, the two thighs, and then you have the Milah is Yesod, that's why it's related to Yosef, because he kept the Milah. And the Malchut, which is a base on which I am standing, that belongs to David, the seventh virtue. I'm again talking just about the Chesed. So what does Chesed mean? Chesed means being generous. But if you look in our Parsha for sure describes Avraham Avinu and describes his virtue. You find that Avraham Avinu not only we would want to think that he's just a Chesed person, but somehow you see him has to lie. At the very beginning, there is after a few psukim, there is a Ra'av, okay, Vehi Ra'av Ba'aretz, hunger, and Avraham has to move towards Egypt, towards Mitzrayim, and he is afraid of his wife being taken to Paro, and therefore he lies. Lies doesn't mean chesed, okay? Lies means that he keeps himself well. He knows how to keep himself from being from being hostage, from being killed maybe by Paro, from his wife taken, etc. So he lies. Okay, later on he has a problem of the milah. And we find himself that he's very sad before that, because he talks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hen li no natata zera. And he doesn't just, you'd expect a chesed person just to be happy, just to give people all the time, to decide that nothing that disturbs me, everything you give me is good, everything you don't give me is good enough, and not to be involved in a problems, his wife complains that you don't care for me. Okay, you would expect Avraham and Sarah to be the brilliant, the best relation. Okay, why? Because he is a chesed person. He gives her everything. Okay, so and it's not like that because she complains. She's a very, I would say, tough woman. Okay, but she complains that she blames him of not caring for her because she doesn't have any kids and he doesn't care and he has to say he's a little bit angry at her. So again, not pure chesed. So we have to redefine what chesed is, and I think that it would help us with the figure of Lot. And it's chashuv just to know for everything, that because every time we basically understand. I talked about the midot, so we basically understand that there are three main midot: chesed, gvura, and in the middle, tiferet, or sometimes it's called rachamim. What's the difference between chesed and rachamim? So chesed is if you go to, let's say, to buy your can of Coca-Cola, and it costs like 5 shekels, and you have 10. So if you're chesed, you say keep the change for yourself, or the seller. I don't care. Okay, that's a very chesed person. If you're a very very gvura person, so no, you just check out exactly how much he gave you back and so on. If you are rachamim, so you might, let's say that the seller didn't give you back the odef, the change, so you know that you do know that he owes you money, but you decide that it's a tip for him. Okay? So what's the difference between the first one and the second and the third one? The second one wants everything to be exact and precise. He doesn't do anything that is not lefi adin, according to the law. The first one, he doesn't care. He doesn't care if you take much more, if you deserve it, you don't deserve it. If you're a lazy person, you gave him a service, you didn't give him service. He just says, keep the change for yourself. He's a very generous. But the third one, he generous from one side because he doesn't take the 5 shekels back to himself. But on the other hand, he keeps it in a box. He doesn't want just to give you. He wants to know that you owe it. So he says, okay, it's a tip. It's a matter of a manner, of a cultural manner. Okay, so I know why. Okay, if you're a very generous donator, you give without asking. If you're not generous, you are gvura, so you're stingy. You don't give. But if you're rachamim, okay, or tiferet, so you combine the two midot. You give, but you want exactly to know if you owe to it. Okay, if you owe, if you should be given, and that's why you check out and you want your accountant to give you a list. Okay, so that's the difference between the three midot, and I think that's a basic explanation. And by saying this, especially by differentiating between chesed and Rachamim, we say that chesed is pure giving. But chesed, as we saw by Avraham, is not just pure giving, because sometimes Avraham gets into troubles, and not only is not all the nice person smiling to each one. He doesn't smile to his wife. He doesn't smile to the five kings. Sometimes he has to fight, and he knows how to do it. So, what the explanation of chesed? Chesed means that wherever you have a situation, you decide to take it to go forward with it. Let's say that I give money, so I give money. I decide to give money. Let's say that I have a house, an open house, so I decide to be machnis orchim. But if I have a complex situation, like a war, like a battle against king taking my nephews, so I would make a decision. The decision won't be to be awkward, to be afraid of the situation. The decision would be to go forward, to get into the situation. If chas v'shalom chayal, a soldier in Lebanon or in Gaza sees a mechabel, a terrorist, he can say to other, I see, I don't shoot, I try others to get into the trouble. But as we know, most of the soldiers go, and in Tzahal it's very, very clear that acharai, okay, the first, by the way, the first one to shout acharai was Shimon, I don't remember his family name, from the castle, the Krav castle next to Yerushalayim. He was a very non-professional soldier, but he was a leader, and he says, you go after me, and that led Tzahal, the IDF, to adopt his words, and basically it's very Jewish, it's very Avrahamic, to go forward, because you decide that in each complex you do something. You're not afraid of the situation. You don't take back. You're like Yitzchak. Yitzchak always take back. Okay, sometimes he's right. Sometimes he doesn't want to fight with the Palestinians. Okay, but he always goes back. He goes backwards. Avraham never goes backwards. He just goes forward. That's why it's called Chesed. Now, if by explaining Chesed like this, I would like to discuss the figure of Lot. And it's very clear that the figure of Lot, based on a lot of Achronim that explain that, Lot is a very skeptical person, meaning to say that he doesn't know how to decide. And you know that sometimes you have the imitator, you have the first one who is a source, the origin, and you have the imitator who does exactly what the strong person does. In each class, in each grade, you have the leader who decides to do something, and you know usually the weak students, weak pupils in the class, they don't have self-esteem, so they just imitate the strong boy of the class, and then they do shtuyot. They disturb the teachers. They make shtuyot in school in order to show that they can be they can get active, but they're not activist at all. Okay, they just imitate. We have the most famous character of that is Charvona, because Charvona, you know, at the end of the Megillah, he says, גם הנה העץ אשר עשה המן, עומד בבית המן, ויאמר המלך תלו עליו. So he jumps on the train when the train rides to his direction. Okay, he understands very smartly that Haman is no longer the leader but Mordechai, and he changes his place from one place and to another. And it's a very big question why we say Vegam Charvona Zachul Atov. Usually we hate that people. We disgrace these people that don't do anything, just imitate, just choose the right time to do. So Chazal say that Haran, Lot's father, was exactly the same personality, that he imitated Avraham. He saw him in the furnace of Ur Kasdim, and Avraham was the first one to be thrown, and he wasn't afraid, and he was brave, and Haran decided, okay, why not? Let me do it as well. And he thought one miracle was done to my brother, it would be done to me, and he got killed. Okay, why? Because we don't like the imitating people. And Chazal say that Lot was exactly like his father. That's why he was a tail of Avraham. He just was tied to Avraham, therefore he imitated. Avraham goes to here, he goes with him. Avraham goes to here, he goes with him. But at a certain stage, because of the shepherds, Lot understands that no longer he can be with Avraham. He tries to be independent, and then for the first time, he has to make a decision, okay? And Lot decides to go to Sodom Valley, but basically he stays with his character of not deciding, of not leading, of in each situation not to be on the decisive side. This was the only decision that he made. You see it when the guest would come next week, and Lot is very indecisive. He doesn't know what to do. He throws to the air very stupid offers like take my two daughters. Okay, we'll talk about it next week, but basically he doesn't know what to. Maybe he cannot stand. Okay, I don't blame him. Maybe he cannot stand in front of all of Sodom. Maybe he cannot be the judge of Sodom because they'll kill him. But from then on, I can be. Chazal say that he was a very not decisive person, like his father. And in being with Avraham, he imitated Avraham. Being with Sodom, he imitates Sodom. He tries to be the judge in order not to be, not to decide against the spirit or against the culture of Sodom. On the other hand, he tries to make some good things. So he's an indecisive person, and that's the mamash hahefech of the contrary of Chesed. Because the contrary from one side of Chesed is Gvura, not to move towards, but moving backwards. But the opposite of one time, what's his name? No, Elie Wiesel said that the opposite of cruelty is not to be just indifferent. Okay, what was his sentence? He said that the opposite to be indifferent is not to be neutral. To be indifferent is to be evil. Okay, because you are indecisive in a place that being not decisive, meaning that everybody is being murdered. And the same thing happened with Lot. And Lot is very in the middle. In the middle with Chesed is the opposite, is mamash the opposite. So we have two opposites of Avraham. One is his son, Yitzchak, which is totally the opposite towards Gvura. He goes backwards. He doesn't get into the situation. He escapes to backwards. He doesn't want to be with the fight. He doesn't want to handle anything. But Lot does want, but doesn't decide exactly to which side he goes. And that's why Avraham says, Ima smol ve'imina, Ima imin ve'asmila. According to the two explanations, he means literally, if you choose one side, go to the other. And according to the second explanation, he means if you go to the north, you'll go to the south. The south, I'll go to the north. According to what I'm saying now, Avraham used the חוסר החלטיות, the lack of decision, saying that if you just decide, okay, be on the right, be on the left, decide whether you're a tzaddik, decide that you're a rasha, but just decide where you are, and you're indecisive, okay? That shows exactly the difference between Avraham, because Avraham, in each situation, even if he's not doing the same, once you decide, so you decide, okay? I can blame you that you made a wrong decision, but okay, you have taken the decision, at least you have taken. Avraham takes the decision everywhere. Lot tries not to take any decision everywhere, and that was being skeptical, being indecisive, and that's what led him towards the evil, towards Sodom. That is for now. Good evening. Enjoy.
So there's no comparison between Lot and his sister.
No.
Sarah.
No.
Not
no.
that.
No, because she's very, very strong. Yeah, she's even stronger than Avraham. Yeah.
Right.
And she's unlike her father, okay, as well. Haran. Yeah.
Also, exactly. Special.
Who is Lot's sister?
Hmm?
Who is the sister of Lot?
Sarah.
Sarah, Iska.
Ah,
Yeah, Iska, basically, if you Ramban, I think, says that you haven't find anything about Iska, so it must be that Iska is, I don't remember if it's Rashi or Ramban, so it must be that Sarah and Iska is the same, and if you say that, so she was his niece, okay? Abraham's niece, okay? That's the first time that an uncle takes his niece, basically, in the Tanakh. It would happen more and more and more, like in Shir. Okay, that's it for now. Good evening, בשורות טובות. לילה טוב.
טוב.
טוב, תודה.
לילה טוב.
Sorry, I left. I just got a call for a Levaya.
וואו.
But I left. Okay, בסדר.
בשורות טובות. Just meet in good place. בעזרת השם. להתראות.
תודה.